Hi, and welcome to Let's Talk Safety. I'm your host, Dylan Sutherland from Protector Safety Gear. Throughout this series, we'll be interviewing industry experts to provide our audience with valuable insights on various categories of PPE. Topics will range from selection and standards to maintenance and care. This should ultimately assist you in selecting fit-for-purpose safety solutions for your site. From these discussions, we will create resources such as Toolbox Talk downloads and blogs, all of which will be available on our website, www.protector.co.za, for download. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Safety. In this episode, we're going to cover the second part of the EN361 standard. So in this section, we're going to really dive into the practicality of that standard, where our viewers can get a lot more value on how to practically apply the standard. Once again, we have Stephan here. Stephan's going to dig into a couple of the questions and really discuss points that we believe would add value to any person using or deciding on what harness to use on site. To begin, we'll just start with the recap of the previous part. That is what the standard looks like as a testing. The key parts that came out of there were, when a harness is designed, it needs to be designed to be able to withstand a fall. That is the first test that it gets done. That test ensures that the harness never puts additional force onto the user. The second part is that once the fall has happened, the user can hold in a situation and the harness will not break or let the person fall to the ground after the fall has happened. As Stephan mentioned, there are additional components to that test which are based on the corrosion aspects of the test. Those standards included the static test, which ensured the harness could withstand a fall and the forces that are applied to the human body, reduce them from a dangerous level below 6 kilonewtons. The second one was the static test, which was holding a harness in position of 15 kilonewtons for a 3-minute period, meaning once you've fallen, your harness won't break and damage to a point that you fall out of it. The third one was the corrosive side of it, and that's a bit more technical that we won't really get into today. And the fourth part of that standard is ensuring that the fit is correct. That one's a bit tricky, and we didn't really dive into it because as much as the harness may be fit for purpose in terms of design, we do have a big problem where people don't wear it properly. So I think we'll get into that a little bit in this episode. But to kick it off, I think let's start right in the beginning, Steph. When somebody's deciding on what harness to use, when would they decide, hey, I need an EN361 or a SANS 50361 harness?
Well, the first thing that we need to look at is somebody working at height. The construction regulations defines working at height as anywhere where you're exposed to a fall risk, falling off or falling into a hazard. So if that is the risk, then we need to look at wearing a harness, and that would be the first consideration.
So when it comes to that EN361 harness, is there certain places that those attachment points are that a user would connect to?
Definitely. The most common is the dorsal D-ring, which is between the shoulder blades, and then the front D-ring. The front D-ring is an attachment point that we'd use, for example, if you're climbing up a cat ladder and need to connect to a vertical lifeline. So there is 2 attachment points, and then you've also got the work positioning points, but those are not for connecting fall arrest devices.
So you're saying we wouldn't connect
No.
as an EN361 on the sides?
No, we wouldn't. An easy way to identify this on your harness is any point where you can attach a fall arrest to has got an A designated on that fall arrest, on that connection point.
Fantastic. Are there any points that would be special features that people need to take into account when selecting their appropriate harness for the site they're working on?
Definitely, and I think that also depends on the type of work that the person would be doing. So if somebody is welding or doing hot works, then they need a harness that's certified for hot works. So another couple of features that we can also look at is breathability, how comfortable the harness is, the ergonomic design. A lot of time people are wearing these harnesses for a long time, and if the harness is uncomfortable, chances are somebody is going to take it off or not wear it, and that defeats the purpose of the safety harness. So I think it is vital to look at those components when selecting a fall arrest harness.
Cool. Let's dig into a couple of those points. So let's talk about the hot works. would a harness be differently certified to a regular EN361 harness if it was designed for hotworks?
Yeah, so it would still be certified to the EN361 standard. Manufacturers would just use a different type of webbing. So they would use Kevlar webbing. But importantly, like I mentioned, it still needs to meet the test requirements to pass EN361.
Great. So there's no additional standard. It's just a product feature almost that it's designed for that kind of application,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Cool. And what would happen if somebody in this instance used a regular webbing in a welding environment?
Well, the webbing's not rated to be able to withstand that heat. So that could damage the webbing. It could compromise the integrity of the webbing, and that would compromise the quality of the harness in a fall. So that could mean that in a fall arrest scenario that the harness won't work as it's intended to, and that can result in somebody die.
Sure. And that's just purely, I mean, even if one of those small sparks of, call it a couple millimeters, goes through the webbing,
Yeah.
that's then compromising the strength.
Yeah, it's compromised.
Cool. You also mentioned ergonomics. Let's quickly, because you're spot on. A big problem we've got in South Africa is that we know that in general we don't like PPE.
Yeah.
I mean, it's seen the person using it that we really want them to stay safe and
Yeah,
be safe,
100%.
but they need to use it properly.
100%.
How?
Yeah.
What are the factors? What are the considerations one can take when we're deciding on a harness and we're talking about that ergonomic side of things?
Yeah. So I think a shift that I've started to see with manufacturers is that they are now starting to take into account user comfortability when designing PPE. And the entire reason for that is because if something's uncomfortable and it becomes an annoyance or it becomes a hindrance to your task, you're probably not going to wear it because you're up there and you want to get your job done. You know, nobody thinks they're going to fall when working at heights. So if something gets in the way and something's annoying, then the chances are that you are going to remove something. So I think it's really important to look at ergonomics, how comfortable a harness is it breathable, does it absorb sweat?
But let's dive into that, Steph. Let's say, what is that? What is the key features that might make it easier to wear, easier to put on?
Yeah. So some of the key features is, does it have padding? Does the harness have any padding? Is it breathable, the material? The connection points, you can look for something that's got a quick connect buckle. That also makes the harness a whole lot easier to put on and to put on safely. Another feature that manufacturers are looking into now is how adjustable the harness is. So the more adjustable the harness is, the better it's going to fit you and the more comfortable it's going to be. If something's loose and you've got a lanyard at the back of on your back D-ring and it's hanging way down your back, then it becomes a little bit uncomfortable and it's not ergonomic.
And there's a whole number of points on a harness which are made from different webbing. And what I've seen quite often is a person would be wearing a harness and the end pieces are all just flailing around and kind of in the way. Is that part of what you're talking about from this ergonomic point of view?
100%. Just being able to put those loose pieces away and store them away somewhere, that does make a difference in how the harness fits and how it feels as well, because that can also become annoying.
And not disrupt the person while they're actually carrying out the duty that they're there for, right?
100%.
Okay. Cool. So let's then get into the real world experience. I mean, you've covered a few of the considerations one should take when selecting a harness. What are some of the real world experiences that you've seen or experienced where somebody could have avoided what the incorrect decision they've taken on the EN361 harness using it?
Yeah, so something that I've seen quite often is people wearing harnesses on site and it not fitting correctly. So the harness being way too big for the person. If there's slack in the harness, there's a couple of things that can happen. You are going to fall a longer distance. If you are to fall, that makes the forces that the person experiences a lot higher. So another indication that a harness doesn't fit correctly is that the D-ring would be sagging way below their shoulder blades. If that's the case, then if somebody has to fall, then the chances are that they're not going to be falling in an upright position, which is something that the harness has been tested to. So when manufacturers test the harness, they test the harness in a fall arrest scenario where the D-ring is between the shoulder blades.
And let's just quickly jump onto that. So when it's tested and you need to fall, or the harness that's certified to the EN361 standard, the person or the harness needs to catch the person in an upright position. That then means that all of the forces basically sit in the legs of the user.
Yeah.
What would happen if that D-ring is a bit lower? Where would those forces be distributed?
To their back.
Right. So that would be the shoulders and the legs, right?
Yeah.
And that would almost cause this, like, your middle body would push down, while the top and the bottom, your shoulders and your legs, would pull up.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's some serious force. We talk about 6 kilonewtons.
Yeah, that's crazy. And the reason why your legs are supposed to absorb most of the force is because those are the biggest muscles in your body.
Yeah.
So it's been designed like that for a purpose.
100% right. So when we think about all of the points that you've brought out already, what are there any other critical challenges, and if there are there any solutions to these problems with the EN361 fall arrest harness?
Definitely. So one of the challenges is, if somebody's been in a fall, how would we know that that person's been in a fall just by looking at their harness? With a lanyard, it's pretty clear to see because the shock absorber would have deployed. But with the harness, it's a little bit more difficult to tell if it doesn't have the correct features. One of those features can be an impact indicator. So manufacturers can stitch in specific impact indicators into their webbing. And if it's been exposed to a force in a fall, then those impact indicators would deploy.
Would this weaken the harness?
No, not at all. It still needs to meet those requirements set out by the EN361 standard.
Cool. So it's more like a sacrificial stitching almost that is going to deploy to say, listen, this harness has been...
And it needs to be discarded. Been involved in a fall and it needs to be discarded.
Fantastic. Steph, if there's one point that you would like to leave as a pro tip for our listeners regarding wearing of this EN361 safety harness, what would that be?
Something very simple that anybody can do is just get a buddy to check your harness, make sure that it's fitting you correctly, make sure that the dorsal D-ring is between your shoulder blades, and that's a simple tip that can help save plenty lives.
Agree. So long as the person checking knows what they're checking for.
And they like you.
Cool. In this episode, what we'll do is we'll include that pro tip in our toolbox talk. In the toolbox talk, we'll also include a how to don a harness, making sure that we've put it on properly so that if you are uncertain that your buddy doesn't know how to check it, that'll be a clear indication visually. Thanks again for joining us, Steph. Thanks for sharing your insight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And again, hope we have added value to the people that are listening. And please tell us that if there's parts that have been valuable, tell us if there's parts that could be better. If we hear that information, we can apply it and we can make sure that what we are sharing is actually of value. That's the reason we're doing this. I mean, we want to ensure that at least one person's life is saved by the show. And I think by getting your insight, we're more likely to achieve that. Thanks again. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us, and I hope this episode added value to you. If you are experiencing any safety challenges on your sites and require any additional information, please do leave us a message on LinkedIn via Protector Safety Gears page, or alternatively follow the link below and share a message with us, because maybe it can create value or valuable conversation for future episodes. Be sure to also follow us on LinkedIn. There will be some valuable information shared from today's discussion.